This is geometry, but we're going to work on some algebra steps in geometry, multiple step equations. So here we're looking at an equation with two different x's. So we're going to group those x's up. What I want to be sure that you realize here, you should not, by the way, you should not say minus 3x minus 3x. That is not going to work because they're on the same side of the equal sign. We don't cross those off. We do not call this 4x. It doesn't work like that. It's actually, you have 7x and you have 3x. That's a total of 10x minus 4 equals 6. Now we have our like terms, the ones without x's. So this time I am going to add the opposite because I'm going to the opposite side of the equal sign. Notice that when you go to the opposite side of the equal sign, that's when you do the opposite of the negative 4. You add the 4 over. I would like you to show your step. And then by dividing by 10, we get a value of 1. And 1 is our answer. You can check your 1 by plugging it back in. 7 times 1 plus 3 times 1, that's a total of 10, minus 4 is a total of 6, so it worked. Let's try this next one. This next one's a little scary. Take a look at the fractions. One thing you've learned about fractions in the past is your denominators have to be the same. If your denominators are the same, then we can look at the tops of the fractions. Notice that both fractions have x's with them. So they're like terms. So they both have the same denominators. They both have x's. So I'm going to look at this positive 3 and this negative 5. And that would give me a negative 2x with a denominator of 4. The 4 doesn't change. You don't add 4's together. You don't subtract the 4's. They have common denominators of 4's. So you use the 3 minus the 5. Since they're both x's and they both have the same denominator, we get negative 2x over 4. The plus 8 is still there, equals 7. Now we subtract the 8 across because we're going to the opposite side of the equal sign. We're going to do the opposite of the positive 8. So now, thoughts on how we're going to handle this. This is a fraction that equals a number. We're trying to get x by itself. That's the ultimate goal. So what I'm going to typically tell you is to always multiply by the denominator. Multiply by 4. Multiply by the denominator. Yes, there are other ways. You can talk about multiplying by a reciprocal. I'm not turning things into decimals, that's for sure. Yes, you could have reduced the fraction if you wanted to. But just simply multiply by the denominator. That's going to cross the 4's out. Or you could call it 4 times 2 divided by 4, and that's going to give you 2 every time. It'll always give you the numerator number. So the 4's cross off, and I'm left with negative 2x. Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. And I divide by negative 2. And my x equals positive 2. Because you have a negative divided by a negative makes a positive. And of course, 4 divided by 2 is 2. Last one. Here we have parentheses. With parentheses, you need to distribute into each one. So this is 6k minus 24 plus 7 more equals 1. Now, as we look here, there are some different strategies in terms of how you can handle this. Most of you just might go straight to a calculator. Would totally work. You can also say that you have 7 pluses. There's my 7 pluses. And I have 24 negatives. Well, that's a little crazy. That's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'll start down here. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I have 24 negatives. These are going to cross off. So these are all crossing off. Those eliminate each other. And you're left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So negative 24 plus 7 equals negative 17. That's one way to do it. It's a little cheesy, but it totally works. Another method I might show you. It's always tricky when the larger number is negative. But if you treat this just as 24 minus 7, the signs are different, so you're going to subtract. Borrow a 1 to make this 14. 7 goes into 14 7 times. Drop down your 1, and you get the answer of 17. Since the larger number was negative, you know you're going to have a negative 17. Another way that you can do it without a calculator. And then we would add our 17 to the other side, because it's to the other side of the equal sign. And I got k equals 3. So those are your examples of the different ways that we're handling these problems. So now we're going to come on over and do some fun little sheets. Why was the pail so pale? Okay, so here, just a little reminder. You have x's that are the same type. So we're going to collect those as like terms. So the 5x and the 2x make a total of 7x. That's an example where you do not subtract the 2 from the 5. You're not going to opposite sides of the equal sign. But here we are going to opposite sides of the equal sign. So 7x equals 49. Divide by 7. Notice there's not a lot of room. So if you need to do this on a separate sheet of paper because you write a little bit bigger, that is okay. Would rather have you keep it organized on a separate sheet if you can't do it here. So we got the answer of 7, which is the letter E. So we're going to come down here to the bottom, and for letter 7, or number 7, we're going to write the letter E. Then you'll do that several more times. There are also some of these story problems in here. We've learned about all these words before. The sum of the measures of two complementary angles is 90 degrees. Complementary angles, remember. So we know that the two small parts, small part plus small part equals the big part. And the big part is 90 degrees. That's what complementary means. So you've made an equation out of this. The sum of the measures of the three angles of a triangle is 180. You know these three add up to 180. So you can write your equation. And the four angles of a quadrilateral adds up to 360. We've learned that before. Notice that it's a little scary having fractions, but the denominators are the same. Same thing as up here. The denominators are the same. So you just have to work with the top numbers. Okay, so give that a try. Then on the flip side, what's heavy moving forward but not backward? There's no fractions on this, so that's really nice. We have our parentheses like we've talked about. You have the word problem. Write an equation and solve for x if the area of the rectangle is 70. Well, area would be 7 times x plus 4, length times width. Right? Length times width is what makes area of a rectangle. Distribute, we got 7x plus 28 equals 70 minus the 28. So you have 7x, that equals 42. Divide by 7, x equals 6. So for 16, you got x equals 6. So we're going to come up here, and it says shade in the area for each solution. So we're going to come up here, and we're going to shade in 6. So we're working on some of our basic algebra skills. Give that a try.